Hello everybody, my name is Alan, and welcome to Crimicide True Stories, the show where we take the best stories from our true scary stories on Reddit and share them to you guys. Before we begin, I'd like to make an announcement. Jake will not be returning to the channel, unfortunately. At least, not at the moment. I don't know if or when he will make his comeback, but life for him is just mad busy. He's getting married, and it's understandable. So for the foreseeable future, it will just be me running the channel. But I hope you enjoy. Now, the last story of today is going to be about this killing that I thought was a lot like the Jack the Ripper killings. So stick around for that. Let's jump into it. This first story is from Reddit user Dor the Floof. This story happened years ago. Me and my friend at the time liked to explore abandoned buildings. In my hometown, there were these series of buildings used as old war veteran hospitals. They've been abandoned since the 60s, I believe, and have fallen into disrepair. Many people would sneak in and vandalize the place, so it became a regular spot for police to patrol. This made it difficult to get in. Anyway, me and my friend one night decided to try and get in. We ended up finding a broken window in the back of one of the buildings, and we climbed in. The place was pitch black, and we only had small flashlights. Walking down the long hallways, we could see broken glass everywhere, and just an immediate feeling like you were being watched or followed. There was a long hallway we were going down with doors on either side all the way down. At one point, we split up, and I went down the hall, and my friend went the other direction. As I walked alone, I would flash my light into each of the rooms as I passed by. There were wheelchairs and hospital beds, and all manner of graffiti. At the last door in the hall, I turned and looked into the room, and I swear on everything, there was a black figure towering right in the doorway. I know what I saw, and I swear he didn't have eyes. The eye holes were just a dark, sunken hole. I remember panicking, and I just turned back and ran as fast as I could, yelling for my friend we had to get out of there, and told him something was in one of the rooms. We both ran out of there as fast as we could, and never went back. I don't know what I saw, but it was definitely scary, whatever it was. This next story is from Reddit user Dank Reddit God. It all began November 2019. It was me, my brother, and a friend just outside hanging out. We were just circling around the neighborhood when we decided to go into the forest. We go in, and we find a stroller, a crate, and some other weird things I forgot about. Frantic, we tell the other kids in the neighborhood about this, though they probably didn't care. Obviously weirded out, we spent months until COVID hit investigating that forest. But there was one time we still can't explain. It was January 2022. Me, my brother, and two friends. We were at the park when we decided to go into the forest again. The park was shaped with the basketball court in the front, playground in the back, and behind the playground was an opening in the trees, where you enter and reach the playground. Anyways, we went through there on our bikes to the street, and into the forest. We reached the forest, and as we were walking in, I see something move in the distance, so I zoom in with my iPhone camera to try and see what it is, but my friend said it was just a branch. Until 5 seconds later, something started chasing us. Terrified, we scream and run away. Ever since then, my memory has gotten hazy, so I do not remember what it looked like, and we didn't take a video because we were terrified. It looked like some Civil War era soldier on a horse. My brother said it was a prisoner, but to this day, we do not know what it was. We never went back in after that, and nobody believed us. In August 2022, I moved away, and I didn't go visit until March of this year. I actually found one of my friends playing basketball, and he remembered the forest. Though, not the exact same person with us that day. Anyways, he left. So it was me, my brother, and a random old lady. Remember what I said about how the park was shaped? In front of the basketball court, there's a mildly steep and grassy area there. I shot and missed the hoop, so my ball rolled around there, and as I was grabbing it, I saw a lady crouched with a baby for 1 second, and it just disappeared. Mind you, this was around 7 p.m. Not dark, but not necessarily light. I told my brother, then around a minute later, I grabbed the basketball from there again, when my brother started screaming, so he ran into our parents' car and drove off. He said he heard stuff in the bushes, and I did too. I also heard whispering and footsteps. It hasn't been the same since that day in January 2020. I think there were Satan worshippers in our neighborhood, because there was one time I was standing around while my brother and our friends at the time went into the forest, and they came back with photos of a hanging yellow raincoat and chairs all around each other, like a group. And there was another time me and my brother and friends were exiting the forest, like any other day after school, when these teenagers came in, and I don't remember what they said, but they responded with, "We pray here," which most likely explains the chairs and everything else we saw. But I still do not know what went on in that forest, even 2 years later. This next story is from Reddit user Elise on Reddit. I get followed by random people on Instagram all the time, and creepy messages don't really bother me anymore. There's a lot of weirdos out there. I do tend to read messages though, out of curiosity, and because sometimes they're really funny. Last year, one account stood out to me, because it DM'd me saying, "You should ride in our clown car." I looked at the profile, and many of the images were very creepy clown illustrations and photos. I actually drew a few of them in my notepad because I am intrigued by strange things like that. The username seemed like gibberish to me, but I googled it, and it turned out to be a German author's name written in one word. I showed my boyfriend the account, and we both thought it was pretty weird, but funny. So I replied to him asking if I was an e-girl, and they struck up a conversation with me, which got increasingly more explicit on his side as it went on. Again, I'm used to this kind of thing, so my boyfriend and I thought we'd just troll a bit. He was much creepier than some others though. He spoke with an intelligence and authority that showed me he was older and much smarter than the usual creeps who message me. He wanted to know more and more about my private life with my boyfriend, so I thought I'd bargain with him. He had mentioned he was a journalist, so I asked if I could read some of his material in exchange for my fake answers, because I kinda wanted to know who this guy was. An example of a message he sent: "Good girl, my name. There's really no reason to wait to open your legs if you feel that primal attraction and chemistry. Do you tell him to wear a condom, or do you rather enjoy the feeling of being filled?" Usually, I would have blocked such a weirdo by now, but I got worried when he said something about teaching me AP style. I became concerned he was a teacher. If he was willing to message me, a 20-year-old, maybe he was willing to message girls a lot younger than that, or girls he had power over as their teacher. It was just a hunch at the time, but I decided to keep on trying to investigate. Eventually, he sent me a message saying, "You're gonna put me in professor mode, and I won't be able to get any salacious slight enjoyment out of you sexually because I'll see you as a student." Bingo. I was right. I felt sick at this, but I now became determined to work out who he was and wanted to expose him to whoever he worked for. I asked him if he ever looked at his students, how he was looking at me, and he said, "What professor hasn't, rarely but occasionally, had an enthusiastic and attractive young student and considered what if from time to time?" I got the impression it wasn't such a rare experience for him. I started Googling his username again, and found a list of university teachers from across the US and UK who had interest in this German author. I spent hours collecting information. He obviously wasn't willing to tell me who he was, but he seemed entertained at the idea of me guessing. I began to get frustrated, so I decided to try and get his IP address. I was worried he'd realize and block me, or do the same to me and threaten me, but I was too invested in trying to find out who he was now. I disguised it in a fake link and got his location. He didn't catch on. This narrowed down my search a lot. He was actually messaging me while he was on his university campus. I still wasn't sure which teacher was him though, so I emailed the university pretending to be a student, asking if any professor had expertise on the author I found on his username, and made up an essay title I was working on. They replied the next day with a name. I'd been suggesting to him I was trying to work out who he was, so I sent him a message saying, "Hello, his name, I've found you." He knew time was up and I'd got him. I emailed the university from a burner account for fear of getting sued for defamation, with screenshots of his messages outlining my concerns for his students and how I had discovered his identity. I never heard anything back from them. I don't know what happened to the clown man, but I really hope he was at least fired. Before we get to our final story, if you've enjoyed the video so far, feel free to comment, like, and subscribe for more content from Crimicide. If you would like your story to appear on the channel, feel free to submit it to crimicideyt@gmail.com. And with that, let's get into our final story. This final story is from Reddit user ThrowAwayGoAway. This isn't my story, but my aunt's, who told me a couple weeks ago, and I want to sort of get it off my chest. Story is posted with her permission. It was 1972. My aunt, being the youngest in her family at the time, had less pressure than her siblings to get into a good job early or find a nice guy to get married to straight out of high school. She's always had a fascination with police investigation and wanted to be a police officer. At around 15, however, she discovered the world of a police forensic analyst, the kind of people that work on dead bodies and autopsy corpses. She was hooked, and being that there was a morgue in town that was severely understaffed, she applied and got in as a basic worker/helper, accompanying the family who owned the business as experience. She was 19 at the time of the case. This was the kind of small town that you'd expect to have something lurking under the surface, and that happened one foggy afternoon midwinter. It was in the middle of a massive snowdown when the police were called about what somebody thought was dumped garbage in a cornfield. The police went in to check it out, and instead, they found a body. Larger municipal police were called, and by the time they got there, it was too icy and dangerous to go back. So they had to bag the body up and place it in the morgue until it could be taken to a bigger department and looked at more closely. One of the things they did ask, though, since they brought a forensics guy with them for the trip, was that if they could use the morgue's predatory area to do a brief examination before turning in for the night. My aunt, who was working there at the time, insisted she stay for the exam, and though she wasn't allowed at first, her persistence let her stay there so long as she stayed quiet and didn't interfere. They laid the body out, fully solid due to rigor mortis and the frost. It was a feminine figure, pale, milky skin, blotchy bruises everywhere, and what my aunt described as the strangest set of anything she had ever seen. There were obvious injuries, missing limbs, including the head, but there were also strange inconsistencies. Some things, like the head and breasts, seemed to be removed almost surgically, but one of her limbs seemed to have been torn off with bloody tendrils hanging from where her shoulder should have been. Reproductive organs, upon inspection to the genitals, were also missing. There was a small hole in her abdomen where the skin sunk downwards, instead of pushing up, and making like a bowl there, and her internal reproductive organs seemed to be missing on account of that. She said the examiner assumed that they had been removed via the vaginal opening on account of a lack of incision. Her hand on the undamaged arm looked like it had been cut off with a saw. Right leg at the knee looked torn off. It was at this point in the explanation that she had had enough of talking about it. She didn't end up becoming involved with the police or anything. She instead became a banker and moved out of that town soon after. She says that she realized it wasn't the life for her, but even then, she still watches her true crime shows. Thanks for reading, if you did. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed those stories. And as I said, it will just be me on the channel for the foreseeable future, and as a result, there won't be any footage. It'll just be audio only, so feel free to just listen to these stories in the background, or whatever cases I come up with. But I hope you enjoyed listening to those stories. I know I enjoyed telling them. Until the next video, everybody, I'll see you then.